So welcome everyone today to the Area of Canada hosted cybersecurity webinar. My name is Lori Byerly. I'm the Director of Chapter Leadership Relations here at the Association. And my colleague is with me, Shannon Dinwiddie. She is your Member Services Account Specialist. Anytime you need anything regarding your ARA membership, Shannon is the one to reach out to. And we'll send you some information with her contact information at the end of the webinar. Today, we are very pleased to have with us network coverage. So we all know that cyber threats are here to stay. So how are you going to protect your rental businesses from ransomware, phishing, and malware attacks? As a member of the American Rental Association, you can turn to the professionals at Network Coverage for advice. This coverage offers all ARA members a confidential 2-hour cybersecurity consultation that includes a risk assessment scorecard. ARA will email the link to schedule your appointment after the webinar. And now it's my pleasure to introduce to you Joshua Kronoff. He's an information security analyst with Network Coverage, and he is here today to present our webinar. And Josh, I'll turn everything over to you.
Sounds great. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm going to share my screen here. I got some slides to kind of go over as I go through this here. So bear with me. All right. Full screen it here. All right. Can everybody see my screen? Okay. All right. I saw a thumbs up. That works. All right. Yep. So we're going to be covering general cybersecurity awareness, today's threat landscape, the things that we see very often, what to look out for, some kind of indicators that something might actually be malicious and not just a typical email coming through, for example, and kind of what happens on behind the scenes of the bad guys and pretty much how they operate, how they work. So you kind of understand what goes on in their world and their mentality. So you kind of anticipate especially with your businesses, because they're going to target, they target small businesses, they target large businesses. It really doesn't matter anymore. They target everybody. Long gone are the days where they just target giant corporations because they think they make the most money that way. It's definitely escalated, and especially since COVID, with excuse me, with working from home, a lot of people doing things more remotely. They know that people are more susceptible and more relaxed to possibly click the email link that ends up actually being a virus or taking you to a fake web page where you enter your credentials in, and then they got your login password. They know people, as people are working a lot more remotely now, you might not have like a boss behind your shoulder. So you're thinking, oh, okay, I'll click this, where you might be a little more hesitant. So they took advantage of this, and they've ramped up their attacks in the last few years by 3 times the amount. We're talking millions of attempts a day of trying to compromise accounts. So it's definitely important that we go over this. A little bit about me. I started back in 2013, cybersecurity. I focus more on the blue team, which pretty much just, it's a techie term for defensive security. Then you got your red team. They're the people who kind of go and hack the companies, but they aren't actually doing anything malicious. They kind of quote unquote attack a company, and then they'd say, hey, this is where you go wrong. So I've been focusing on the blue team for the last 10 years now. Crazy, I think it's gonna be 2023 already. But yeah, so I've seen pretty much every single variation of attacks, kind of the trends of it, and just seeing how it kind of goes up. So we always like to point out the biggest statistic on this page is that 43%, so pretty much roughly half of data breaches involve phishing. Phishing, as you might know, an email comes in and it says, hey, your Microsoft account, there's something weird on it. Click this link to verify it's you. And you click it, and all of a sudden you were tricked, you were duped, and they got your credentials. When you click that link, they download the virus around your computer. They were able to get onto it, and then maybe they saw a folder that said all my passwords or something along those lines. So all of these, the stereotypical, when you watch like a TV show or something, you see the hacker sneaking into some big corporate office and finding the mainframe and things like that. It's not realistic. Nowadays, everything just happens from a simple phishing email that you just click, and it just goes down from there. This is a $26 billion industry so far, and this was back in 2018. The FBI hasn't released the latest statistics because it's so hard to track. For all we know, they're making a lot more, and that's most likely they're making even more. So it's a huge industry. So again, the stereotype of that lone hacker and maybe his mom's addict or basement or something trying to hack you, it's very outdated. This is a normal industry, just like any other large industry, where people go to an office from 9 to 5. They'll have kind of a front, like an old mafia film kind of style, where they say, oh, we're, XYZ insurance company, but in reality, they might be doing some illegal business in the background. That's kind of how a lot of these phishing companies work now. And they might say they're an insurance company or something, and they have 100 employees come into the office, and they sit down, they do their 9 to 5, and their 9 to 5 is just sending out phishing emails, trying to hack you, trying to compromise you, and the end goal is to steal your money in some way, shape, or form. If that means stealing your information and ransoming it back to you, if that means compromising an account and then posing as that person to trick other companies into getting their money. At the end of the day, they have many different methods, but this is a very large industry at this point where people just treat it like they're 9 to 5s. And it's so hard to combat for us because most phishing attacks do come from outside the country. So it's kind of a gray area of how much we can really enforce our laws in countries that are much more lenient or don't really care about white collar crime. So it's definitely a growing issue. So the best way to combat this stuff is just with a lot of training, things like this, where you're extra aware of it, just because a lot of the time, a lot of federal agencies, for example, the FBI, while they do get involved in a lot of incidents, their hands are also sometimes tied in the bigger cases. So 95% of all cyber attacks are caused by human error. And that just means clicking a link that you shouldn't have, or thinking you went to a website and it was actually a malicious website and it was a fake website set up by a bad guy trying to steal your information. So pretty much this means we have, and our information security tools in the industry as a whole, I'm not just talking about network coverage here, they are so advanced. We have now machine learning. We got supercomputers starting to become a little more common as the technology gets better every year. But at the end of the day, you can have the best security tools in place. You can have all the latest and greatest things, but at the end of the day, human error is just the result of most of these things. So even if this gets to 99.9% because all the filters and all the different antivirus tools are so advanced, at the end of the day, all it takes is one person to get tricked. And the hackers, and we'll go over it more as we go into this presentation, but they have a lot of ways to kind of trick people, to take advantage of people, using basic psychology to manipulate people into doing what they want. So it's definitely important. You never want to just think like, oh, well, with technology is so advanced now, these antivirus, they do thousands of scans in 1 second. That's crazy. Why do I have to worry about it? Well, it's because at the end of the day, it still comes down to human error, unfortunately. So for phishing emails, there are 3 stages. There's kind of the baiting. Again, we'll get into all these. The pretexting, that's going to be more like they're going to do kind of like a reconnaissance on you. And then lastly, the actual phishing itself. So this is a Facebook post that we saw from the Plymouth Police Department. That it cracks us up, but we also like to share this because when it comes to that pretexting, before they are the target, for example, XYZ company, they're going to start stalking some of the targets that they're going to focus on. Again, these are normal 9 to 5 where people have an office meeting where they all sit together and they just do recon on the company together, and they talk and they discuss like, okay, we think that Bob over here would be the best person to compromise, and then navigate it through there and pose as him. These kind of things, it's very organized now. So what they'll do usually is first they'll look on LinkedIn, they'll see who all works at this company. From there, they'll go to your social media, they'll look at your Facebook, your Twitter, your Instagrams, hoping that you don't have very many privacy settings on your social media, so they gather as much information as possible. And also why they're doing this is because you might be able to guess somebody's password before even trying to hack them with any kind of phishing email, or even before you get anything technical, because it's just a statistic that majority of people's passwords are either going to be your children's first name or your pet's name with like maybe a couple digits after, things that are close to you, because obviously it's easier for you to remember. But the problem is when people share these kind of surveys on social media and they think it's just fun, I'm putting my information in and I'm sharing it with my friends to kind of compare and see what other people like. it's actually not harmless because the bad guys are also looking at the stuff because they're going to guess that these are going to be passwords or security questions. For example, you might log into your banking and it might be like, hey, verify who you are. What's your mother's maiden's last name? Things of that nature. They're going to look for things like this. And actually, a fun fact is a lot of these like trends where people start sharing these things on social media that enter your personal information like this and think it's harmless actually starts with a malicious like actor. So they might create a fake, I'll use Facebook as an example since this is a Facebook post. They'll create a fake Facebook account, add you as a friend, hope that you add them. If they do, they might share like one of these, pretend to share it with their friends, but in reality, they're hoping you take the bait. So a lot of these trends, and then they go viral from there. So a lot of these actually start with bad intentions. It doesn't mean that all your friends sharing them are up to no good, but that is where a lot of these things start. So always try to make sure when it comes to social media, you keep it as private as possible. You know, you list where you work, but trying to put too many details. And obviously people could Google, okay, where's XYZ office located at? You know, Facebook, for example, make sure, you know, kind of go through who you add on social media, how, you know, if you could put any privacy settings on your accounts that you don't already have, like definitely do it because they are looking, even if they decide not to target your company, like there's no way to track who's just looking at your account. It's definitely, you gotta be very cautious what you post online nowadays. And also keep in mind that caller IDs can be spoofed. Spoofing means that you just make the number appear as something that's not. Sometimes it's not even malicious. Sometimes it's really annoying. I get one of these almost daily about my car's extended warranty. And what they'll do is they'll trick me into answering half the time because I just moved to a new area recently. So I'm not familiar. I don't have all the numbers memorized yet. So I get a lot of calls from my area code. So what they do is they look at your phone's area code. They'll spoof the area code number. So you think it's something, you know, local. You pick up and then it's actually not that number. And it's, hey, I'm calling about your car's extended warranty. And then I hang up, obviously. But that's a form of spoofing. So you can't always just trust the number on there. Try to verify who you're always talking to. If it's your bank, hang up, call back the bank at the customer support number for your bank, for example. But you can't trust the numbers anymore, unfortunately, because it's very easy for them to be spoofed and just display as something they're not. And then when you go to call back that number, you're either going to get like a dead line because it's not a real number, or they might spoof a number that actually is in use. And you call that person, the guy picks up his phone and he's like, I never called you. What are you talking about? That tends to happen. Also, especially now at the holiday season, we are seeing these like quadruple in these months just because everybody's ordering packages online. But beware of texting links, especially if you ordered, for example, you ordered a bunch of packages on Amazon for Christmas coming up, and you know, you could always view your shipping details and whatnot. If you use Amazon, for example, on Amazon or whatever website you went to, they'll give you a direct link, usually through your email or phone if you opt for that. But keep an eye out for these because, you know, the odds are that you might have a FedEx package coming and you get this random text. You must think, oh yeah, that must be the thing I ordered the other day. Like definitely put the brakes on it. Like go back and actually look at like your order confirmation, see, okay, is it actually FedEx or was it UPS, for example? And also, you know, keep an eye on the links too, because if it is like an Amazon order and you might have like a link to Amazon, you know, if it says www.amazon.com, it's probably okay. Again, I would always advise not even clicking links and just going back to the website, or if you use the app on your phone and looking to see on the actual page your order confirmation and things of that nature. But a big giveaway here is definitely going to be that the links. Always look at the links. You know, E3FMR. If you didn't go to a website or order from some manufacturer called E3, for example, that's probably a bad link. And when you hit it, it's going to either install some kind of virus on your phone, or it's going to take you to a fake web page and tell you, hey, log into this page here. And then you log in with your personal information. And then they take that information and they try logging in to accounts that might be yours with that information. And one that we've been seeing actually pretty frequently, you click the link, then it'll go to like a fake FedEx page that they make look almost identical. It'll say something along the lines of, hey, your package was unable to be delivered. So what we're going to do is charge you $5 for redelivery. So people think, oh, okay, I'll put in my credit card info, it's $2 or it's $5 or whatever it might be. But what that actually is, if it's bad guys, they can lie about that amount. And once they get your credit card or your debit card number, they could just charge you whatever they want. So that's one we're definitely seeing a lot right now. So definitely be careful with texting links. I advise just not even clicking on them. And again, just going back to where you might have actually made your order from. Also keep in mind, nobody ever needs your password. This goes for your IT providers if network coverage here would call you, or if say your personal banking, for example, if the bank calls you about suspicious activity, they might need to verify like the last 4 of your social or your name, but they're not going to need to know your password to your account. If they are actually the bank, they can already access your account on their end without having your password. And it's the same with anything. If it's your IT provider, if it's Amazon, if it's you name it, no one's ever going to need your password. If they are like an actual, on that line and they can pull up your account and see something's weird with it, well, they can already view your information. There's no reason they have to log in as you for any reason. The only exception might be if your IT provider was maybe resetting a password for you, where they might, and you didn't want to do it yourself, where like to give you like a temporary password and create your own new one. If you want them to just, for example, enter a password for you on your behalf, just say, oh, can you just change to this for me? That's the only time they might need to know your password, but even then that'd be a new password, not your current existing one. So again, never give away your passwords to anything. No one ever needs it. And kind of what I touched on before, ask for credentials. If you get a call and it's from your bank and it just looks a little off or you don't recognize the number, just tell them you'll call them right back. You hang up, you look up, if you use Bank of America, you go to Bank of America's website, you see their contact information or their 800 number. You call back there and say, hey, I got a call. They said their name was Bob in this example. And I just want to verify that did Bob call me about maybe suspicious activity on my account or whatever it might have been. It takes 2 seconds to do that, and it's just a good way of verifying that you're actually talking to the correct person. And again, if it wasn't legitimate, they're not going to mind. It's not like you're going to upset them. And if they are upset that you hang up and call right back, you might want to consider if you even want to do business with them anyways. So try not to share sensitive information. Try to limit what you post online in general, because the bad guys are looking, and there are tons of them nowadays. So the phishing emails themselves, pretty much the end goal, as I touched on the very beginning, stealing money. There's different methods. If it's getting passwords or getting you to click on a link that allows them to connect to your computer, or if it's just compromising your email, or just putting viruses all over your computer where the viruses then report data back to the bad guy. The end goal is to steal money in some form or fashion. The worst cases are usually ransom, where they'll delete everything you got. They'll save like the backup of it to them. And then they'll say, hey, we have all your information. We delete everything. And if you want it back, you're gonna have to pay us $50,000. But when you end up paying it, then they might leave a program or tool in there where 6 months from now, it's called a backdoor, where they could just activate a dormant virus and it does it all over again. So, kind of similar like ransoms in real life. Do you pay the ransom? If you pay the ransom, can you really trust them? That tends to be the big case right now, ransomware. But there are just other ways. There are a lot of scams where they might compromise the email account at your company, and they'll say, hey, I'll email everybody else at this company now and ask them for gift cards, saying, hey, I got a meeting coming up. It's really urgent. We need gift cards for these clients in the next like 30 minutes. Can you go out real quick and run to a CVS or a Walgreens and pick up some gift cards real quick? And then what happens once you give them the code, then they cash that money into their account and good luck getting that back. So again, the end goal is stealing money in some shape or fashion. And show that everybody falls for these. And it's not, there's nothing to be shameful of, because they are really creative. This is actually an example that happened at our company. So the original email that you can see on the bottom here from Ted, Ted was one of our senior techs, and he sent an email to Troy. The one thing we always, and we like to use the example just to show, like, even like IT people sometimes fall for these, like, even though we live and breathe this stuff 24/7. So the one big thing we always like to point out is that the display name, in this case, Ted Neary, anybody can edit the display name, be whatever they want. If you want to name yourself the president or whatever, you just go in, you change those settings. What you gotta trust is actually the email to the right of it. So in this case, somebody emailing from private mail at TI1C, whatever that is, was posing as Ted Neary. So what they did is they did the recon. They looked on LinkedIn. They saw, oh, hey, this Troy guy reports to Ted Neary. So we're going to impersonate Ted to try to get Troy in this case. And this is one of those gift card examples. And what they do is they put a sense of urgency because they know that that works. They know, hey, your boss is saying there's something crucial. Is it, I need your help right away. They kind of want to get you to panic, to think, oh, I don't have time. Think about, does this make sense? Ted needs this right now. I gotta get going before I could just stop and think about it. So you'll see this theme reoccurring a lot with just the sense of urgency. So again, subject, crucial. And another big thing is often when the emails come from outside your organization, again, here at Network Coverage, our domain is netcov.com. So whenever any one of us are emailing each other, it's always going to be netcov.com. When it comes from outside your organization, Microsoft does always put this caution message. This email did originate from outside the organization, just to be careful. So you've seen the example, hey, are you available? I need you to do something for me. Troy did not catch on to the email to the right of Ted's name, which actually was his email. So he followed up, hey, Ted, what's going on? From here in the next one, once he knows, again, kind of like the term fishing, like, you're fishing for fish and you got a bite. Well, now I got a bite. Now he's going to really ramp it up. Again, first sentence, I need to take care of this for me ASAP. These gift cards, less than 30 minutes, like it's urgent. We need to do it now. Again, every sentence he says ASAP, now, urgent. Eventually, Troy did catch on, said no, and we took care of it from there. But it just goes to show, like, when you have that sense of urgency, and the bad guys know this, when they pose as either a supervisor or maybe the CEO of a company, and they reach out to a employee that reports to them, they might be a little panicky, especially if it's something like this. So thankfully, in this case, Troy did take a breath for a second and look over and be like, oh, wait, this definitely isn't him. So again, this also comes down to the verify thing. If you're getting like weird emails like this, even if it might be Ted's actual email, in this case, like say Ted got hacked and now the bad guy's emailing you directly from his account. If something ever looks weird, just looks off, or like, would he normally have a meeting? Does he normally have meetings with where he gives gift cards out or whatnot? Pick up a phone, call Ted real quick and say, hey, Ted, did you send this? Or, ask other people, hey, have you seen Ted? Like if they say, oh yeah, Ted's, not in office today, he's home sick. And then you get this emails that he's presenting in less than 30 minutes, like, okay, hold up. So again, communicate with people, call the person directly. If you don't have the direct number, call the company and ask to be transferred to them. Just call to verify, because that could save a huge headache down the road if you were to buy gift cards in this example. Again, don't trust the display name. You see that the text box is right there. You can make it whatever you want it to be. For emails with links, always keep in mind, you can look at them. If you get a phishing email, it does not mean you're compromised. It's only once you actually do an action with a link. So for example, it's an email, it looks a little weird and it says it's from Microsoft and click here, or you won the lottery, here's a free 1,000 gift card, dollar gift card, like click here. If you get those emails, your computer's safe, like nothing happened. It requires like you to click on the link or you to open up the file attached to the email to actually infect your computer or do anything bad. So I know sometimes people panic thinking, oh geez, I've got a phishing email. Are they in here? Like what's going on? Am I compromised? But as long as you don't click anything or you don't open anything up, you get a million phishing emails and it's never going to harm you. So it is good just to know that you could go, you could look at the email, you could spend time looking at it, scrolling up and down. It's not going to compromise you. The way it works is once you open up those files or you click that link, it's going to establish a connection between your computer and the attacker's computer. And then from there, they could do their damage. If that link has a virus or if that link takes you to a fake website, or if it's a PDF attachment, if they hide a virus in like a spreadsheet or a PDF, you have to actually open up that file for whatever's bad in there to execute on your computer. So you could technically save a file, say in this case, it was an attachment with a PDF. Let's say it's like an invoice, for example, but there's a virus hidden on that page. If you download it to your computer, it's still completely safe. It remains dormant until you actually either double click that file then or open it up, or you just open it right straight from your email. So just keep that in mind. You can always like take a breath, look at it, take your time with it. And again, one good way to tell, if you have a link in this example, the Russian Mafia website, if you hover your mouse over a link, it'll populate a little sneak preview of what the actual link is. So say this is a Microsoft email, for example, and it's telling you to sign your account, or it's telling you like create a new account. Say you start a new job and you're getting insurance set up, for example, and you gotta go register whatever it might be. It just says sign on. When you hover your mouse, it'll actually show you where it goes. So it's worth spending the extra 2 seconds to just hover your mouse before you click something. You just see where it points to. If it's a Microsoft email, it's actually going to a website called Microsoft.com, for example. See where it always goes to before you click on it. Keep an eye out for typos. Most hackers are from outside the US. Russia, China, India are the big three. So most of them aren't going to speak English as their first language. So look out for typos, grammar issues. One we see sometimes is they'll type in like their own language. So in this example, like Chinese one I just saw the other day come in. And what they do is they type in Chinese text and they put in a translating program and it spits it back out in English. And then what they do is they just copy and paste it and they throw it into an email. The thing is, a lot of these translating programs, if they aren't sure what a word is, they'll just leave it in whatever language it was before and then just skip that word as opposed to highlighting or whatnot. So if you see like an email and it goes, hey, my name's Bob, and then you just see a bunch of Chinese lettering or Russian text and it goes back to English, that's a sign that they just copy and pasted it from another language and their translating program just didn't know what that word was supposed to be. So it left it and the bad guy just didn't notice it when he pasted it into the email. Because again, they send like thousands of emails a day. So just hoping for one bite, because all it takes is one bite, and if it's a good catch, you might be set for the year for all you know. So what they do is they just blind fire these like out everywhere. They'll try it all day. So they don't really have time to look through the contents of the email. Oop, did I miss a letter or did I miss a word here or there? So definitely look for that as well. And as you saw in our example for our own company, be leery of urgent threats and requests because they're going to try and get you to panic, or going to try and get you to do something without thinking or rationalizing it beforehand. And I touched on this a little bit, but always download with caution. For example, you get an email with a PDF file and it says invoice. You could download it and it's not going to hurt your computer. It's only once you actually open up the file that whatever's bad in there will hurt you. So definitely make sure you have the latest antivirus on your computers. If you don't recognize who sent it to you, maybe don't open it. Maybe just download it, put it into a folder of like might be malicious, might be suspicious, but you don't want to delete it outright because you're not sure and you just want to kind of wait to verify. Just be cautious when you are downloading and just keep in mind that when you open it, it's only when it actually could hurt you. And something that happened a little more recently, that was in the news, I can't believe it's already been a year at this point, the Colonial Pipeline hack on the East Coast here. This just goes to show you can have the best and latest, greatest tools, but at the end of the day, human error is what's going to cause a compromise. In this case, it shut down an entire pipeline that crippled the East Coast with gas for a while. And what happened in this scenario was simply human error. They weren't really taking into account how many people were working. He did. Sorry if there's a Bob in here. I just keep using Bob as an example. I don't see one, so he should be good. But say Bob no longer works at a company. They might not disable the account. They might realize like, oh, Bob left a few months ago, and yeah, we turned off his payroll, but we never shut down his email address. We never shut down like his access to our files, for example. And that's what happened in the Colonial Pipeline. They still don't know exactly if it was an insider that knew that this dormant account was there and posted onto the dark web for some hackers to take advantage, or maybe they just discovered this old account that wasn't being used for a while. So they found this old dormant account where the guy wasn't working there for a while. And what they did was they just, they were able to compromise that account. And once they were in as him, they were able to do damage and perhaps destroy their entire infrastructure through that account, because that account had so many permissions and it was a high level account. So they had like a lot of access to a lot of things that are definitely critical. So yeah, it's very important to just always keep account, like, okay, if Bob's leaving the company tomorrow, like make sure tomorrow we deactivate his accounts. We make sure he doesn't have access to our files anymore. Because you never know where you might, you might just shut down the email and think you're good. But even if they don't get into the email, they somehow get his account access some other way. They could still log in as him if he has access to your file sharing network or whatever it might be, and do something. In this case, yeah, it was just as simple as they compromised the password of the account. They logged in and go, oh, he has all this access and he hasn't even been here, so they're not going to suspect anything. So then they're able to do that. So just always keep in mind who's working at your company. It's always good to do like a kind of like a routine audit, just making sure, okay, we have 90 employees, are there 90 accounts, are there 92 accounts? Maybe somebody got missed. Before phishing even happens, when they're kind of doing the recon, your social media and things of that nature, 81% of hacking breaches are done with stolen or weak passwords. And that just means weak just means like they could be easily guessed. So if you're on social media and you post about your dog Waffles 24/7 and post pictures about them all day, well, the bad guy's going to think, okay, well, maybe we'll try the password Waffles 123, Waffles.1, things of that nature, because that's what people generally do. So again, it doesn't even need to have any complex viruses or really manipulation. 81% of them are just people bored scrolling through social media, and they're saying, hey, this person, maybe I'll try logging in as them, see what happens, and they get in. So that's why it's just so important, like the human part of this, where you have all the best security in the world, but if somebody guesses your password and gets in as you, because you aren't careful of where you post your information, it's that easy, unfortunately. To try not to post anything too obvious, kind of a good trick that I always recommend, try to use phrases instead of words, assuming like the password wouldn't be too long in that case. So it might be easy to guess a word sometimes, but if you have a phrase saying Bob throws the ball, for example, it's going to be very long. The shorter the password, the easier it is for them to guess or maybe crack. But if you have a long phrase, it'll be kind of easier to remember because it's very random, but it's a phrase just in your head. And at the same time, it's very long, and just, why would they think that random phrase would be a password? So I like recommending phrases, assuming that it's not too long, because some passwords have, length requirements, or it might be too long for the system. But that's a good rule of thumb if you just have problems remembering, a random word, and you don't want to do anything too obvious, like your kids' names or your pets' names or your wife. A phrase is kind of a good alternative where it still sticks in your mind, but it's still complex enough where they're not going to just guess it. So make sure you don't write your passwords on sticky notes or documents or sheets, or even if you just have like a spreadsheet on the desktop of your computer called My Passwords. If a hacker ever did get into your computer and they look on the desktop and they just see a spreadsheet with all my passwords or all my billing information, you pretty much just handed everything to them on a silver platter. And also just be where, if I had a penny for every time I walked past somebody's computer back in the day and they had a sticky note around their monitor that said their password right there to log in, because they couldn't remember it. So definitely try to avoid just writing them down somewhere that's like easily accessed. accessible. If you have like a journal with your passwords, make sure it's either in a locked drawer or something. It's still not the most secure way. There's definitely better ways to go about it. But if that were the way, I know a lot of people just have like a journal or a folder with all their passwords. Make sure that that drawer could be locked. Make sure you have the keys. Make sure nobody could access that if you do it that way. But the most secure method is always going to be password managers. I use them in work and I use them just in my personal life as well. It's a win-win for security and just ease of use and time saved. Basically, the way it works is you'll log in once a day. It'll send a code to your phone to verify it's you. So the odds that a hacker is going to find you, considering also most of them are overseas, they're going to find you in person, rob you for your phone, just to try to log into your email. The juice isn't worth the squeeze. If somebody's trying to find you in person, steal your phone, you got bigger issues than just an email password maybe getting compromised. So these are really secure because you log in just once a day. You get the code on your phone, you verify it's you log in. From here, you could save all your passwords into these websites. And what I mean by ease of use is for a lot of these password managers, in this case, Salesforce, not Salesforce, for LastPass, in this example, they have Salesforce. What a lot of these password managers will do is when you go to the website, it'll say, oh, hey, we recognize this website. Here's your username and password. It makes everything so much faster and simpler for you. And this way too, you have really long and complex passwords that you don't even remember. So it's good to have those long complex passwords and then not even having to remember them when you go into these websites because it'll just autofill it for you. And when you do eventually update the password, you just go into one of your entries and say, okay, my Salesforce password is now this, and you just save it in there. So it's just a good way. Again, nobody's going to try and steal your phone just to hack a email unless like it was highly targeted and you're like CEO of like some mega corporation or something with like tens of thousands of employees where somebody might do that in person. But again, with most attackers being from outside the country, they're just going to be blind firing phishing emails. And if they're not blind firing, if they're targeting you, even then, the odds of them finding you in person, stealing your phone off you, it's just that none of them really go to that length or that extent. So definitely password managers are what we always recommend. And again, even like outside of work, and obviously I work in security, so I'm preaching it here, but even in my just personal life, like I use a free one. Again, the free ones aren't gonna be as good. There's not gonna be as many features. The autofill sometimes is a little finicky, but even just using a free one in your personal life outside of work, it makes things so much faster and simpler. And speaking of those codes, MFA, multi-factor authentication. Everybody hates it. I get it. You got to log in, you got stuff to do, and crap, I can't find my phone. Where did I put that phone? And now I can't log in. I have to get up and go look around the house or go look around the office, or, I get why people have a lot of pushback to the MFA. It is tedious at times. But the reason we harp and other IT companies just harp on it so much is that, again, it blocks 99.9% of account hacks where they would have had the password and all they need to do is hit sign in. But because they need that code that got sent to your phone, or whether you don't have to use a phone, they are just like authentication devices where it'll just like send a code that you could attach to a keychain, for example. So you could do it that way too. But when you have that code, it's very, I don't want to say impossible, because there are ways to trick you into entering that code. Somebody could be posing as like a Microsoft employee, and then you're on the phone with them. They're like, okay, well, just give me that code you got real quick. Again, like a Microsoft employee would never need that for any reason, but it's so rare that we see those. And as you can see here in these statistics, there are and this is back in 2019, and this is pre-COVID, so the numbers have nearly tripled. So we're talking close to 1 billion fraudulent sign-in attempts every day, meaning they got the passwords of somebody through whatever means or method. They just are trying to sign in as them. 99.9% of those were blocked, and that 0.01% chance was just in that scenario where I described, where somebody posted as Microsoft might trick you into hitting approve, or maybe you just see it pop up on your phone, you accidentally hit approve instead of deny, or maybe it's just a coincidence you're logging into something else at that time and you saw the pop up to approve. Like it's extremely rare. So this is why we harp on this so much. It's the last, say everything else is done perfectly right, still for whatever reason something slips through, somebody falls for a fish, this is like the last line of defense, and it's a really good one. And the reason why this is so effective as well is on the bottom. 99.9% of compromised accounts don't use MFA, don't use the multi-factor code that comes to you. Only 11% of companies back in 2020, and unfortunately that number has not changed much from what we're seeing. Don't even use MFA at all for signing into emails or any kind of file sharing services that you might use at your company. So the bad guys know when they get that code, are they going to sit there and try to, all right, how are we going to trick them to hit approve? When they know only 11% of companies are going to have that, they're just going to move on to the next target because they go, okay, well, odds are the next company's not going to have that. So if we're able to get the passwords and they prove that they're able to, we'll just hit the next company and then ransom their stuff and sell it back to them for, $100,000 or whatever it might be. So again, this is why MFA it's a pain in the butt, but it's so worth it. Just because not only will it keep you safe, but it's even going to deter bad guys from doing it. It's like there's ways where you could like just look up, does the account have MFA? And if it does, again, they work in the office setting nowadays. They all work together. They're going to just tell each other, oh, hey, I was looking at this account, it has MFA. Let's all just move on to the next target. So it's a good deterrent as well. So thank you for coming to this presentation. I finished a little early. Now we do have our email and phone number here if you ever were interested in booking anything with us. And I know they kind of touched on earlier in this presentation that there is like a demo that you could sign up for. But these are just our direct email and phone number as well. If you're interested, or you ever have any questions that we can answer, feel free to reach out to us at any time. So I will hand it back over to you guys. I know we have, if there's any questions anybody has that I can answer in the meanwhile.
Thanks, Josh. Yeah, let's open up in case anyone has any questions. We'll give people a minute to unmute if they have a question they want to ask.
Tough crowd.
It's a lot of great advice. I'm telling you, you can't really listen to these often enough because there's always something that you're going to take away and go, oh yeah, just go back and do that particular one. It's just, you just have to stay so on top of it. It's amazing. Yeah,
it again, with even how good technology will get, even if antivirus is super advanced, it's going to detect every virus and that exists. Still at the end of the day, human error. You see email, it looks just like an email you're expecting, and then you realize at the end, like, oh wait, like we see these sometimes where like they'll fake their email address for to like put an extra letter in where you might not notice. So instead of Microsoft, it'll be Microsoft with 2 T's at the end. They try to trick you. So little things like that could slip by where you could be like the most security minded person and maybe just didn't notice the second T. So it definitely, it's so important to stay on top of it just because little things like that could result in a huge headache down the road.
Right. So again, just want to thank everyone for joining us. We did record this, so we will make it available to you again so you can listen, maybe share it with your staff if you'd like. And I just want to remind everybody again that as an ARA member, you have a 2-hour free consultation with network coverage, and we'll send you the link to that so you can sign up to get your consultation, your risk assessment scorecard done. And on behalf of Angie Vandenkamp, who is your Region 10 Director, I definitely want to thank everyone for attending. And if you are going to the ARA show in Orlando in February, please join us at the ARA of Canada's Happy Hour. It's going to be Sunday from 4 to 6 at David's Club and Grill in the Hilton Orlando Hotel. And when you get your registration packet, it will automatically print you a ticket for that event. So we just need your ticket and your show badge for entrance into that. Of course, the big game will be on, and we've got some food and drinks for everyone. So we're looking forward to you joining us at that event. Shannon, I'll let you, maybe do you have a comment or two that you'd like to make before we wrap it up today?
No, I actually just had a quick Josh, I know you guys have some amazing resources for helping to prevent, these attacks. I've had some members call in over the last couple of years that have actually been hit with ransomware. And are you guys a good source to help them if that should happen as well after the fact?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's
Okay,
definitely a little more
perfect.
difficult, but we do have like the tools and resources in place for that, for responding to an incident that's already in progress of like, oh crap, like we're in the heat of it right now. Can you guys help out? Yeah, absolutely. We provide, preventative, ongoing, if something's already active, any scenario really. It's not even just security. We provide regular IT services as well as simple things as deployments or setting up computers, whatever it might be. Anything computer related, we handle.
Perfect. Awesome. That's good to hear because, it's definitely been some scary situations for some members I've talked to in the past. So, but yes, thank you guys so much today for sharing this information with us. And I hope the members that are on board will take a few minutes to access that. If you need help logging into the dashboard or anything to get set up and started with this program, don't hesitate to reach out to me.
Yes, and then just that final reminder again, you'll get an email. Actually, it will come from Shannon so that you'll have all of her contact information with the link to how to register for or how to schedule your appointment and any other things that we may have ARA related that could assist you with trying to protect yourself from these cyber attacks. So thank you again for joining us today. We really appreciate your time and we hope to see you in Orlando.